was the year 2010 when Barbados and many other parts of the world, as a matter of fact, had the unfortunate opportunity to say goodbye to David Thompson. And, you know, there were people who were crying and mourning his passing, and I'm sure that we all have a memory of that state funeral, whether it was people who gathered at the church in St. John or along the street to make sure that they could say goodbye one last time. But although we would have been feeling pain of multiple degrees, I am sure that no pain is greater than the pain for a mother to say goodbye to a child. Well, author Margaret Knight, the mother of the late Prime Minister David Thompson, is here with us this morning because she's written a brand new book entitled From London to Ilaro Court, A Dream Cut Short. Let's say good morning to Miss Margaret Knight. Good morning.
Good morning, Mel.
Good morning. You know that you are one of my favorite people on this island. You are. Let me tell you why. Because are you 85? Are you 85 years old?
Not yet, not yet. 2 more years to go.
So I love that you are so feisty and vibrant and that you still have so much to do and so much to say. Welcome to Modern Barbados.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. This book, I already read it. I read it in one afternoon. I couldn't put it down. And I know that one of the things that you have stressed is that this is not a political novel about David Thompson.
Exactly.
However, in my assessment, I think this is a political novel about Margaret Knight.
Oh, well, it's not meant to be.
And I say that because of your historical connection in terms of working for Mr. Barrow, and you have also been very vocal about different aspects of political life over the years.
Yeah.
So tell me about your involvement in politics so that people get a sense of why I would describe it as a political novel about Margaret Knight.
But that's not what I was prepared for. I was prepared to talk about David.
I know.
But, well, my involvement in political life, I think, really started the first time I ever met Errol Barrow, which was in what was then called Goddard's Restaurant, you know, the upstairs of Goddard's in Broad Street. And I was with a group of friends there, and he came over, and it struck me that this man was very imposing, and you know, you couldn't help looking at him and admiring him. And so I think that I followed his life after that. Soon after that, I went to England, and I was in England all the time, and I kept in touch with what was happening in Barbados. I would get Advocate newspapers sent to me. Well, The Nation wasn't around then. The Bajan magazine, and so I kept in touch with what was happening. Came back to Barbados in 1969 to bury my father. He died, and you know, the transformation that I saw of the island was miraculous. I couldn't believe it, and so I kind of followed the party, and I got involved even from in England. And then, of course, when I came back to Barbados in 1970, I just, you know, I followed the party some more, and I said I wasn't a member then, but I was a supporter. And then I became a member in, I think it was 76, 77. And I was so shocked when they threw Mr. Barrow and his party out in 76. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I said, well, the miracle that he has done, and to throw him out, anyway, that's that. So from then on, I became a member of the party, and I was involved in the party, and from there on, I tell people, I am a Dem, and I will die a Dem.
Let me raise this with you, though. Have you had any inkling living in London and raising children that one of them would become Prime Minister of Barbados?
No. Not as far back as then. David was the only one. My husband and I used to invite a lot of Bajans around. We always had Bajans in our house. And some of them worked with London Transport, and some in hotels and so forth. And I noticed that when we were chatting, David was always there, and he was listening. He was always listening, and he would ask me questions afterwards. about what we... So I realized then that he was definitely interested. And as soon as we came back to Barbados then, because I was involved with the party, he got himself, he used to go to branch meetings with me.
As a boy?
And yes,
yeah.
As a boy. And so he just became more and more involved. When he was at Combermere, he joined the Young Democrats. And then he just sailed through from there.
Interestingly enough, I don't think any mother would even see that at such a young age in terms of the child actually becoming Prime Minister. But one of your friends kind of, I guess in a sense, spoke it into his life. You know, you ask so many questions, you're going to become a lawyer, one of your friends said to him.
That was actually, that was after my last child, Liz, was born. And I had a home help after the midwife finished her duties. I had a home help lady and she was Irish, and David was always climbing on her lap and question after question. And she said to him, you know something? One of these days you are going to become a lawyer.
What I like about the book as well, Margaret, is that you are very honest in your writing, not only about the successes, but also about even your personal failures.
Yeah.
In terms of your 3 marriages and your financial challenges that you've had over the years.
That's right.
Why do that? Why put so much personal detail into a book?
I think it was probably because after David became so heavily involved in politics, you know, people used to say, oh, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. No such thing. We struggled. We really struggled. And because, well, none of the ex-husbands would help, so I was there on my own. I had to work, and also at night, well, about 3 nights a week, I managed a jazz band. Phil Brito, who remembers Phil Brito?
Yeah.
I managed Phil's band, and so I was out with the band. I was up from early morning and out until late at night.
A working mom.
And yes.
Yeah.
So I just want it known, you know, that it was no easy life for us at all.
Do you think that perception comes from, because in Barbados, oh, she's Caucasian, the children are interracial, surely with your light skin it must come along with some sort of major money.
Exactly, exactly.
How do you see that landscape now in Barbados? Do you think that's changed in terms of our perceptions?
Oh, I think so, yes, although there's still that sort of stigma there. For instance, I am a member of the yacht club, but I only joined when I knew that I was told that Chris Skinner was the Commodore, and Chris Skinner is, well, black. And then there were 1 or 2 black people that joined, so I said, okay, well, there's not that stigma there anymore. They can't say that there are no black members of the yacht club, and so I joined the yacht club. But I think there is still this perception that if you're white, you have money, which is wrong. You only need to go up in St. John and see some of those whites up there.
Guest is Margaret Knight, author and mother of the late David Thompson. As we talk about a wonderful book that she has written, it is called From London to Ilaro Court, A Dream Cut Short. And I want to ask you about the dream. There was a perception among many Barbadians that David Thompson was going to be a Prime Minister long before he became a Prime Minister.
Yes.
Talk about that. That's a dream fulfilled.
Yeah, well, but it was still cut short, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he dreamed of doing a lot more for Barbados, you know, but it was cut short. As young as his Combermere days, as you will see in some of the, in some parts of the book, where I went and chatted with some people who had known him and friends and so forth from Combermere and UWI, and we had some friends where we were living in Fitz Village. And David used to go over there. He was very friendly. He had a crush on one of the daughters by the name of Anne. And he used to show off to Anne. He would get a broomstick and he would use it as a microphone, and he would have these debates, and then he'd be saying, Mr. Speaker so-and-so, no, you're incorrect, and all of this went on. And they thought to themselves, this boy is going to go far, and he's going to be Prime Minister. And I think people put that in his head too. And he did tell one of his friends, if I'm not mistaken, it was your Rodwell London.
Yeah.
Or
who was the general manager of the CBC now, yeah.
Yes. That he would be Prime Minister one day.
Well, you talk about his friends. He was extremely loyal to his friends. He had a cadre of friends that they were very, very close indeed.
Very much so. Very much so.
Was this something that you instilled in him, this loyalty, the friendship? And
Well, he says so. In fact, in the book, there's somewhere where he says, I said to him, you're very loyal, or something like that. I think it was during the Sandiford crisis, when we lost the government then. And I said to David, you're very loyal. And he looked at me and he said, well, I got it from you. So
Yeah. In the book, you also talk about David Thompson's involvement with the TV program Understanding, which interestingly enough has been brought back in his memory very, very recently.
Very good.
So tell me about your memories of his appearances on CBC's Understanding.
Well, yes, I did watch it, and I thought to myself, he seems to be doing very well. And then people, of course, called me and said, that was your son on Understanding. But my gosh, he tied up Mr. Who was it again? The politician?
I don't remember, but yeah, you talked about a politician that appeared on the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tied him up in knots. So I was really very proud. I was proud of how he took care of that, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so in the book you mentioned
Linton, that's who it was, Hudson Linton.
In the book you were talking about how you spoke to multiple people in preparing for the book and their perspective. I know you have a favorite part of the book, but in this is page 41. You said, beyond the school gates, David would often spend time in the company of those who frequented the rum shop owned by Adsel Stewart's father. Here he would engage in conversation with big names such as Errol Barrow, Reggie Pierrepoint, and many other influential people with whom Adsel's father was friendly. They mostly talked politics, but also about war, particularly the First World War. Adsel's father, together with many Bajans, including my own two uncles, had joined the British military. I think I like the book because it has these little tidbits in it that you're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So for people who feel like, oh, yeah, I know Adsel Stewart, the makeup artist and stuff like that, it kind of puts things in perspective a little bit more, too, about these other personalities.
Yes, yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You say your favorite part of the book is a story you told about David attending, and I'm referring to him as David before people get upset because I'm just in the context of your son.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Where you talked about you gave him some advice on his war robe when he was attending a dinner at the Sandy Lit. Tell us about that.
Well, we got invited to this dinner. I'm not sure what it was. It was something international.
Yes.
Because there were ministers there from like all parts of the world. I don't think there were prime ministers, but there were ministers of whatever. Wells Hall was there, Patney Hall, all to do with tourism. And in the car when we were driving, there was Mara and myself and David's aunt Rita, and I said to David, I noticed you're just wearing, you had a jacket and a nice shirt and everything, but no tie. I said, I think at Sandy Lane they require a tie. Well, I am a Caribbean man, and that's colonial stuff, and I don't need a tie, full stop. I said, okay. We get to Sandy Lane, we're all seated there and everything, and along comes this Englishman, you know, very posh with himself and whatnot. And he looked at David and said, excuse me, sir, could you come with me a moment? So David went with him. David returned about 5-10 minutes later wearing a blue tie. So, you know, we had a good laugh about that afterwards. But
I'm sure you did. He probably did it.
He had a look. He looked at me and he scowled, kind of. I thought, well, it's not my fault. I did warn you. But
also have some lovely photos and very personal family photos of David Thompson from baby stage all the way through his wedding photo, that kind of thing. Lovely. Took a look. Very lovely indeed.
How old was he here?
He was about 4. Yeah, he was about 4 there because Liz...
Is he? Which one is he?
Liz
the smiley one on the left with the curly hair?
Yes. Yeah.
Right there. Oh, lovely.
Were there any disappointments, any incidents in his life that you were disappointed with?
Well, that would be political, really. I was disappointed and very hurt over things that he had to go through, not only from the opposition, but in some cases his own people. And it kind of hurt me, you know. In fact, you will read about the incident with the frog.
Yes.
Yes. I got so annoyed because I went over next door one Sunday morning. You know, David loved cooking. So he was cooking and whatnot, preparing for breakfast or lunch. And I said, David, I need to talk to you. His eyes went up to heaven. Oh, Lord, save me from my mother. And I said to him, you know, there are some people that I feel I should warn you about. I have my ear to the ground, and people tell me things, and I can see things for myself. I'm very observant. And he said, what now? So I mentioned a few names. And he said, that's what you've come over here to tell me now this early Sunday morning? I don't want to hear. I don't want to know.
Because you were warning him about people who may turn on him.
Yes.
Right.
So I then kind of flew into a rage. I went back over to my apartment, and I had done some cuckoo, but it was hard. I couldn't eat it. So I took it and made a little ball, and I just threw it out the kitchen window, and I said, that's for all of you who have hurt my son. And it hit a frog. The poor frog collapsed. So afterwards I went out and I threw water on the frog.
You revived the frog?
Yes, I almost had it as a pet. I called it Barabbas. Why Barabbas? I don't know, I suppose because of the people who had deceived David, you know.
That's a great story. Would you say that you were one of your son's closest advisors?
One of my sons?
No, one of David's closest advisors. Were you?
No, he wouldn't listen to me. No.
Yeah. Like most of us and our mothers. You know, in reading this book, and it's interesting us here laughing about Barabbas the frog, because I laughed when I was reading this book, but I also cried when I was reading this book.
Yes, that's what people have told me.
Yes, and unfortunately, the book winds up, of course, when we said officially goodbye to him. But in the book, you also talk about when you learned about how ill he was. Can you share that with us?
Yes. That was very emotional to write about. That's why I had to keep... This book took me 3.5 years to write, because I had to keep stopping and walking away from it and coming back. And to write about that part, it was very emotional. It really was. I went to I don't know why I went to Ilaro Court early one morning. Sometimes I used to go there and have breakfast with him.
Yeah.
And he said he was in his office at Ilaro Court, and Mara was in there with him, and he said, oh, sit down, God must have sent you because I have something to tell you. Well, the first thing that went through my mind, I thought, oh my God, is he going to resign? He's only just become Prime Minister. He's going. Anyhow, when he said that he had a little small tumor or cyst or something on the pancreas, my ears shot up, because when I heard the word pancreas, I had done nursing at King's College Hospital in London. I pretty well knew what that meant. And, you know, these tears came to my... And he said, no, you don't cry. I am going to get through this. I am going to recover. everything's going to be all right. I'm going up to New York for an operation, and everything's going to be okay. And I looked at Mara, and her face was so downcast that made me feel like crying more. So yes, that was very, very traumatic.
Compelling story indeed. It's a book that obviously is worth reading. From London to Ilaro Court, A Dream Cut Short. Margaret Knight, thank you so much for sharing with us on Morning Barbados, and we certainly hope all Barbadians will get a copy of this book and learn some more about the role your son played in the history of Barbados and your role as a parent as well.
Thank you.